Hello again, friends. I have another request. This time, I have been asked to tell a story from the indigenous people of the northwest area of the Americas. Why do I say it that way? Because in my search, I found many versions of this story. I'm not sure that I have found the most original or even the most correct version of this story. I found some beautiful pieces of artwork created around the story and its characters, and I saw the raven depicted as both a hero and a villain. Most of the stories have many of the same elements, so the one I picked seemed to incorporate most of them. I only hope I do this amazing story some justice. And so, with great respect to the people who created the legend I read to you now, I bring you How the Raven Stole the Sun. In the beginning, there was no moon or stars at night. Raven was the most powerful being. He made all of the animals, fish, trees, and men. He had made all living creatures, but they were all living in darkness, because he had not made the sun either. One day Raven learned that there was a chief living on the banks of the Nass River who had a very wonderful daughter who possessed the sun, the moon, and the stars in carved cedar boxes. The chief guarded her and her treasure well. Raven knew that he must trick the villagers to steal their treasure, so he decided to turn himself into a grandchild of the great chief. Raven flew up on a tall tree over their house and turned himself into a hemlock needle. Then, as the needle, he fell into the daughter's drinking cup, and when she filled it with water, she drank the needle. Inside the chief's daughter, Raven became a baby, and the young woman bore a son who was dearly loved by the chief and was given whatever he asked for. You know what I find fascinating about this? How so many stories all over the world have a great and powerful being that makes a beautiful young human pregnant with no apparent father. And I'm not just talking about the one you were thinking about. You know, the one where Zeus became a golden shower. That was the one you were thinking about, right? It's just that so often the gods of old worlds swoop down, make a baby, and peace out. It's almost like it just seems like it sets a terrible precedent, is all I'm saying. The stars and moon were each in a beautifully carved cedar box, which sat on the wood floor of the house. The grandchild, who was actually Raven, wanted to play with them and wouldn't stop crying until the grandfather gave them to him. Oh, that is a parenting mistake right there. If you give in to a fit like that, it will never stop.
But if I stop...
Trust me on this one. As soon as he had them, Raven threw them up through the smoke hole. Instantly they scattered across the sky. Although the grandfather was unhappy, he loved his grandson too much to punish him for what he had done. Woof! Mistake number 2. This is how you get entitled children. I don't care that he is a disguised god. Now that he had tossed the stars and the moon out of the smoke hole, the little grandson began crying for the box containing the sunlight. He cried and would not stop. See, this is where parenting mistakes lead. You have to teach the tiny godling about boundaries. He was actually making himself sick. He was crying so much. Finally, the grandfather gave him the box. Raven played with the box for a long time. Suddenly, he turned himself back into a bird and flew up through the smoke hole with the box. How?
Claws.
Talons.
Same thing.
Once he was far away from the villagers on the Nass River, he heard people speaking in the darkness and approached them. Who are you? And would you like to have light? He asked them. Why? Were they smoking? They said that he was a liar and that no one could give light. To show them that he was telling the truth, Raven opened the ornately carved box and let sunlight into the world.
Let the sun
The people were so frightened by it that they fled to every corner of the world. This is why there are ravens people everywhere. Now there are stars, the moon, and daylight, and it is no longer dark all of the time. That is a really good way to explain things. No matter where you go, there are people.
Unfortunately.
So like the Tower of Babel, it's because once all of the people were together and then something happened to send them apart. Or, as in another Indigenous story we read, it's because a coyote threw body parts everywhere. One of the two. I know this was a shorter story this week, and I thought about telling another story as well, but this one feels so iconic it should stand on its own two talons, if you will. So that brings us to the end of another story. I would like to thank Pixabay.com for everything they do to help my channel look special. They really are a wonderful website, and I suggest you check them out. Sometime around here, we'll have that little train that goes along the bottom of the screen that reminds you to like and share and comment and all that fun stuff. To me, the commenting is the most important. But above all, I would like to thank you, my friends, for coming here week after week, for listening to our stories, and for making suggestions of more stories I can read. I appreciate it, and thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. And now a special thank you for my Patreon friends.